right, welcome to another episode of Groundwork, where we interview leaders building the most exciting ecosystem organizations in the world. This is a special edition where we're going to do a deep dive. And so we haven't done this before. I'm really excited to introduce Juhi, who's going to take us into depth on some of the Microsoft ecosystem. So Juhi, maybe you could start by just telling us about your journey and how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on this, Ty. Really excited to talk about how companies can partner with Microsoft and make the most of that ecosystem. So, brief background on why I can talk to you guys about this. I was at Microsoft for a while, and there I was fortunate enough to see the evolution of our marketplace and just the explosion of companies building on Azure and the other clouds that Microsoft has. So, during that time, I was responsible for building out the financial services ISV recruit business, quite a mouthful, in the US. And then I went on to build a program for very high growth startups and help them make the most out of the ecosystem. It can be really confusing to try and navigate massive ecosystems like Microsoft's. And so what we did was we actually distilled down what technical founders needed to do. And as they were ready to go to market with Microsoft, how they could actually activate Microsoft's amazing sales channels and end-to-end use all of the benefits and incentives that are available today for partners, but that most people are not aware of. So did that for a few years. And now I'm the CEO of Partner One, which is an advisory firm that helps not just a select few companies make the most out of Microsoft's ecosystem, but we're here to basically show anyone and everyone who wants to partner with Microsoft how powerful that relationship can be for your business growth. So awesome. Thank you for having me here today.
Yeah, thank you so much. And so I think Microsoft is a tier one partnering organization. That's definitely my sentiment. Microsoft has historically been very effective at working with distributors and the channel. And, in the last 5 to 10 years has really figured out how to partner with companies on the integration side, also on the services side, and is doing that at an elite level. I think also Microsoft probably doesn't get as much attention from like the modern partnership and channel organization when you compare it to AWS or Salesforce or some of the other leading partner programs. Why do you think that is? Do you agree with that first? And then if you do or don't, what are your thoughts on it?
I actually do agree with you. That is part of the tragedy and also the opportunity for companies to grow with Microsoft. And I think the reason Microsoft hasn't gotten the attention it's deserved as a partner is because most startups, for better or worse, tend to be born on AWS or GCP. And it's mostly a technical decision by the technical co-founder. What companies, I think, fail to think about is as we grow, do we want to sell to enterprise? Do we want to sell globally? Would we want to double down on a particular industry? Because if those are your end goals, then it's really important to think about where you're going to sell, which ecosystems to live in. And Microsoft is incredible for partners who want to sell to enterprises, regulated industries, and of course, globally. So I'm glad we're talking about this today because now, thanks to Azure OpenAI and other partnerships, a lot of attention is going to Microsoft, especially for startups who want to build in this new era. And I'm really excited for what's possible, what's coming.
Awesome. Yeah, I think the popularity of the cloud partner programs is quite closely aligned with the market's adoption of the cloud providers' technologies. At least like so far, those two have been in lockstep, and we are seeing Microsoft Azure grow in popularity year over year consistently. And I do see them being quite aggressive in the startup ecosystem and trying to get people to adopt the platform early. And also, making moves like with OpenAI to make outsized investments in innovative technology, which I think is really interesting. And so before we jump in, who I know you mentioned it a little bit, you know, people that want to sell into the enterprise in highly regulated areas, like for instance, you know, if you don't want to have to go through the traditional vendor process with a government agency and you can like go via the Microsoft marketplace. Hey, that sounds like a dream come true. Like, who else do you think should be kind of considering a partnership with Microsoft? If they, you know, if you've got like a head of partnerships or maybe even a founder of a company who's deciding, hey, should we allocate some resources to this ecosystem? Like, what some of the boxes that they should be looking to check?
I think the key areas to consider are which cloud platform are we born on? Because in order to effectively co-sell and partner with Microsoft, about half your infrastructure needs to reside on Azure. And that makes sense, right? If their customers are buying a product, it should be on Azure because that's where their cloud instance lives. So that's thing one. The next piece is, do we have product market fit? Because ideally you want a repeatable solution that you can sell through the marketplace. With Microsoft, it's essential now to transact through the marketplace. And I'll share later on why that makes sense, but you need to be able to check that box that I have a repeatable solution, I can sell it through marketplace. More than 50% of my solution is on Azure. And the other consideration is partnering with Microsoft in order to get the full benefits. It's a deep, deep commitment. So I always recommend having at least one person dedicated to the relationship if you want to go, if you really want to double down on the partnership. The reason for that is you're juggling multiple teams and customers, and you don't want to drop the ball on anything.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, the like and having the expectation that it might take a minute for that person to be able to be successful, or like at least see the type of kind of lagging indicators that you're looking for in success from a partnership with a company like that.
Well
Amazing.
said.
Well, thank you for the introduction. I know that you're being very humble about your experience and depth of knowledge around Microsoft, but I think that's going to be demonstrated in what you have to share today. And for folks that are interested in reading more about some of the experience and knowledge that Juhi has, she's posting a bunch of amazing content on LinkedIn at the moment about the Microsoft ecosystem, also posting that on the Partner One blog. Also, we've been featuring a lot of that great content on the Partnership Leaders blog as well, because it is really, really elite level intel that people can use to be successful. So yeah, let's jump in. I'm really excited to do this deep dive. I'm a nerd for this stuff, and so I hope other folks that are watching today are too.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I'm really excited to share how companies, particularly ISVs, that's who I'm going to talk about today, can partner with Microsoft. So without further ado, I love numbers. As you said, Ty, you're a nerd, I'm a nerd. I love letting the numbers speak for themselves. So here is the latest opportunity for ISV partners. If you co-sell with Microsoft, you can be a part of it. More than 22 billion in annualized contract value that came through their co-sell program last year. And that came through over 170K joint deals. And deals that went through Microsoft's co-sell program tend to be a lot larger than just doing it solo. That's because Microsoft sellers are involved. They know the key stakeholders. There's procurement that can get sped up, dollars that are pre-committed that you can tap into. There's so much goodness that helps you close deals almost 3 times faster with Microsoft involved. And so that's a massive opportunity. And another way to look at that is Microsoft has a really vast ecosystem. But the way I like to visualize that ecosystem is they're Microsoft's field sellers. These are the people who maintain relationships with top enterprise customers. That's like the darkest little circle out there. Most companies want to sell directly with these sellers because it's immediate access to customers. But what I think ISVs should also be taking advantage of is the fact that there are several partner-to-partner channel programs. You could sell with SI partners, and that could help you get into so many more deals than you could be just selling direct. And then beyond that is the marketplace. Microsoft has two marketplaces. One is called AppSource. One's the Microsoft Commercial Marketplace. The former AppSource is for mostly line of business users. The other one is for IT professionals. But both of those marketplaces allow you to reach millions of monthly active users in over 140 global regions. That's just, those numbers are something that just blows my mind. So I think the opportunity is vast. And even if you are built on another cloud, it could make business sense in the long term to move at least some of your workloads or start playing with Azure, OpenAI, and check the boxes that we talked about to get ready to sell with Microsoft.
And the question for you, Juhi, obviously that's a huge amount of revenue that is going through the Microsoft ecosystem, and I think a lot of people have seen numbers like 95% of business with Microsoft is with a partner. But having been on the inside and being able to share some of this opportunity with us, like, what is it about Microsoft that has allowed them to figure out how to work so effectively with partners?
I think the beauty of Microsoft is they really, really listen to partner feedback and they're open to it and they move really quickly. For example, a few years ago, Microsoft raised the transaction fees to about 20% for their marketplace. It was a huge uproar and they went right back down to 3%. I mean, that's impressive. I cannot imagine another behemoth that moves so quickly. Another thing that I found Microsoft does incredibly well is partner enablement. They have so much content out there that partners can digest and use to basically self-serve that you may not even need a marketing team. If you're an agile small ISV, you could just use the templates. You can use the content that Microsoft has to create your own marketing collateral. And the third piece that I think Microsoft does really well is they're constantly innovating, not just every fiscal year, which runs July through June, but every quarter. Every quarter, they'll push out new incentives, new programs that are in tune with what the market needs. So I think that's incredible. And they actually put dollars in to help, for example, with pre-sales, post-sales, building new solutions. So they're really, really invested in their partners' success.
I love that. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for the additional info. I'm just always fascinated to talk to Microsoft folks about how they've built like such an incredible machine.
So here to talk about what are the key benefits of partnering with Microsoft. I know we touched on it briefly, but really the highlights are 4 areas. The first is visibility and global access. You can reach millions and millions of Microsoft customers all over the world. And then Microsoft Marketplace is a great discovery platform. You can get found out there. People are searching for a financial services solution for real-time payments. They just need to type that into the search bar and up you'll pop. And if you've made it possible, they can actually just buy you right there, or there's a contact me button that they can use to reach out to you and move forward. So that's amazing. And the third piece is you can actually co-market with Microsoft. They make it really, really easy to do so. They provide content, templates, access to co-marketing. The other piece, which I think all CROs love, is pipeline development. It's really, really hard to build pipeline in this economy, is what we're hearing and seeing. And the ability to partner with hundreds of thousands of Microsoft partners. There are over 400,000 partners in Microsoft's ecosystem. That provides you with a massive set of customers to go after. And then, of course, you can sell directly with Microsoft's sales team. So if you check all the boxes you get, and we'll walk through what those boxes are at the end, you'll actually be set up so you can co-sell with Microsoft. Their sellers get paid, their customers pull down monetary commitments, and everyone is happy, including procurement, which can be really, really challenging. So speaking of procurement, you can actually look forward to deal acceleration. So that's the third piece. Microsoft has existing relationships with procurement teams. And if you're going through Marketplace, it actually speeds up procurement because you're not transacting in your paper, you're going through Microsoft's paper. And so that just speeds up the process end to end. The other piece is, and most companies don't know this, is a lot of enterprise customers have budgets set aside that they've committed to spending with Microsoft. And one way to use that budget is to buy solutions that are qualified through the marketplace. So instead of fighting for budget, you could actually tap into budget that's been set aside for you. And so that's huge because you're not fighting for a wallet share. And the last piece is, CTOs usually love this, product enhancement. As a Microsoft partner, you'll get access to a bunch of different tools and resources that let you innovate. And now, of course, with things like OpenAI, they're running all kinds of really cool learning modules where companies can learn how do you use OpenAI to change your business. And all of these different areas, there are incentives and funds that you can use. So you want to build a new product, you could potentially have access to funding that would help you build, or SIs who could help you lift and shift over if you need to. If you're co-selling, you have access to pre-sales and post-sales dollars. You have marketing funds. So there's a ton of material out there to support partners in co-selling. So that was a lot, Ty. Any questions there?
Yeah, I mean, so many. The thing that's really fascinating to me, that I'm always interested in, is like market development funds and how people access and manage those over time, both from a program level, like how do you run a market development fund, to be honest. I've never been able to successfully launch one, and I've tried a couple of times. I would love to do that. Maybe it's like in a parallel universe, I have one that's like working really well or something. But then also like how effectively partners can leverage them. Have you encountered any examples where there's partners that have been really successful in kind of marketing with Microsoft?
Yes, and ironically, I've seen it doesn't come through marketing development funds. It comes through creating case studies, things that are actually value adds to customers. So doing joint case studies and pushing them on Microsoft's blog, or getting featured in the marketplace, and basically showing customers how this ISV adds value in the Microsoft ecosystem. That's really powerful because internally at Microsoft, it just elevates your profile, and sellers who are looking for solutions like you want to see the same success their peers have seen. So it's a great, just case studies, joint webinars, or even webinars about Microsoft products and how you helped customers. I think that's a great way to market internally at Microsoft along with externally. You don't really need funds to do that. It's just your own marketing team.
Amazing.
Does that make sense? I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of ABM and things like that, it's hit and miss. So most companies use MDF for that. And that's why I prefer to recommend just double down on your strengths, showcase how you help Microsoft and their customers win. And it goes from there. So what does all of that really mean? It's 5 things for this fiscal year. Microsoft's fiscal runs July 1st through June 30th. So we're a few months in and a lot of time to take advantage of the incentives out there. So step 1, if you want to become a Microsoft partner, is join the Microsoft Cloud Partner Program. The second piece, I haven't really listed it here, but the underlying assumption is at least half your solution is built on Azure. Once you check that box 1.5, make sure you list your solution in the marketplace, make it transactable, and then you can go and apply it to be something called IP co-sell eligible. A lot of people throw around the term co-sell eligible and then IP co-sell eligible. I've done a post about this that we can share, but basically you want IP co-sell eligible. That's where sellers get incentivized to support you. And then you can't stop there. You have to get to something called top tier benefits this year. That's the stage where after you do a certain amount of deals or volume of deals, you get a status that lets sellers get compensated when they sell deals with you. So that means you get quota retirement. It also gives you access to a bunch of other programs that matter if you're a SaaS company. And of course, through all of this, leverage all of the benefits and incentives that are available to you to help you actually move through these tiers. So that's it in a nutshell. It's not hard to get started. I think it's just taking that first step in building on Azure.
And one of the things that I've heard is, you know, the value really comes in developing relationships with the like end customer account managers and those types of folks, and being able to really be like a simple solution to a problem that their customers are encountering, and being known for that. And I imagine, you know, with the massive volume of partners that Microsoft has, there's a lot of companies on that partner list, and being able to stand out is kind of the name of the game. Are there any tips that you've got for companies that are looking to stand out from the program, or is the best way to just participate, like be a top of the class participant in the program?
I mean, that always helps, but I think table stakes right now are to be at stage 4, which is top tier benefits, because that's when sellers get quota retirement, and you want to help sellers retire quota. The other piece that's really helpful is if you own a niche, then just, again, back to real-time payments and financial services. If you own that niche, start pushing all your deals through Marketplace, because it will up your visibility, and then you'll get noticed. I mean, yes, you may have one evangelist inside of Microsoft, but it doesn't mean that all their peers will care. But if suddenly their sales leader is seeing a ton of deals coming through in their relevant account list from one partner, that partner gets elevated.
Interesting. And are those people kind of broken down by segment, like when you're thinking about the categories that you can kind of tailor that information to, I guess, like obviously you want to tailor it for your USPs, but I imagine also you need to tailor it for the way that Microsoft segments their teams. Like, how do people find out about that? Like, how do they find out, you know, like, is it that Microsoft has like a cybersecurity, like, or, you know, you get what I'm saying, like industry specific mid-market team, and that's like, and you need to tailor your message to them, or should you just focus on your USPs, or is there like a mixture of both?
Well, Microsoft publicly lists their different industries as well as what they call solution areas that they like to focus on. So things like business applications, modern workplace, etc. So I love for the companies we work with to actually understand where in that matrix do you fit, and then we can double down on your messaging, because I think in order to stand out, at least in such a crowded market, you really need to own the niche. And once you know the niche, you know you can figure out what persona you're selling to. For example, if you're a deeply technical solution, you're probably not selling to the marketing team. You want to sell to the IT line of business. So you want to make sure you're on the right marketplace. Out there, you want to start transacting as much as you can. And then ideally that elevates your profile to the point where you're getting featured. And just these little tactical steps get you in front of the right people internally. So, and they'll help you navigate. But I don't want to answer what's the structure inside of Microsoft, because I don't want to get killed. So I would cut that little tie, but I don't want to answer that directly.
Amazing. The other question I had for you was like, you kind of alluded to these like different buyer personas, and we just saw news that CrowdStrike hit $1 billion in revenue on the AWS marketplace, which is obviously huge. The one of the success stories from that is like executive sponsorship and people leaning in. The other is, hey, they have a really technical buyer, that rolls up into the IT team, that has like traditional procurement processes and so does Microsoft. And so there is massive ICP overlap between between Azure and CrowdStrike. And like for there are lots of companies whose buyer is either the IT team or like in the under the CTO effectively. But for other companies where that's not the case, like if you were to estimate, I guess, like what percentage of the transactions are going to be like marketing software? Like, do people actually buy marketing software through the Azure marketplace, like in comparison to buying cybersecurity tech, which makes total sense to me?
So this year, everything changed because transacting through marketplace is a requirement in order for sellers to see quota retirement, for customers to pull down their monetary commitments. So yes, I actually do see companies that you wouldn't expect to see typically transacting through marketplace, going through marketplace just because they don't want to go fight for new budget. They say, all right, we have this budget set aside. It was for Microsoft anyway, so let's just buy our marketing software through the marketplace. It's a whole different way of buying. It's mindset shift. So, but yeah, it's changing to where I think almost every deal with an enterprise customer will push through the marketplace, or at least people will try and push it through there.
Makes sense. Amazing. Thank you.
You bet. Yes, that's all.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm excited to kind of ask you a few more questions about the Microsoft ecosystem. So I think the thing that's really, at least feels like it's clear to me, but might just be like this assumption that I have, is that Microsoft has really become a partner first company. You see it in the culture, you see it in the approach with OpenAI, where OpenAI, hey, they're heavily invested in OpenAI, but it's a very strategic partnership versus like a straight up acquisition. And OpenAI is still run independently. I think there's horror stories from the old era of Microsoft around Microsoft kind of putting other companies out of business and quite aggressive competitive tactics where hey, some of those companies probably should have been partners, and there's like a non-zero sum strategy, like an abundancy strategy that could have been in place. But it seems like the culture has transitioned to something that's like really partner first, and like maybe the most Satya Nadella seems to be like the CEO that's the most out there in the market advocating for their partners, and finding ways to partner with competitors and finding ways to just build better things for the market. And so that's my observation from someone who spends time looking at partner businesses but hasn't really ever worked with Microsoft. How much of that is real and how much of that is just me kind of creating a story that works for myself?
I think you're spot on. That culture has shifted dramatically to being partner first. And I mean, Microsoft has a chief partner officer now, just to show how important it is. And also, they're a very data-driven company, and their ecosystem, I think by 2025, is projected to be 10x the size of their revenue. So I think they understand and appreciate the power of their ecosystem. And rather than compete, they actually collaborate with companies that might compete with their own products. You touched on that piece, and I was fortunate enough to work with Datadog when we were partnering with Microsoft, and most companies ask, why would you have a competitive product partnering with Microsoft? Because they competed with the DevOps product back then. And now they're listed on the Azure portal. I mean, it seems counterintuitive, but it makes perfect sense because it's what the customer wants. And going customer first and partner first, I think, has served Microsoft really well. Also, from a financial perspective, it makes sense because at the end of the day, the business ends up being spent with Microsoft. It's just a shift from where the revenue is coming from.
And so what would you, obviously we're just now kind of these are our opinions rather than anything, and like who knows what the facts are. Like, what obviously that this has been an extremely successful strategy for Microsoft. If you look at the like trajectory between cloud and like the strategy around cloud and the strategy around partnering within like the workplace products, which I can't remember. I always forget what that group of products are called, but like all of the, you know, like what, remind me, what's
Biz apps, like
yeah, like between the like focus on cloud and
yeah.
building Azure and that just being the most incredible business, and then in addition to that, like around like partnering in these solutions for like either partnering or being a fast follower in solutions for the workplace, like as things have evolved, seems like it's been an extremely successful strategy. And if you look at the like Microsoft stock price over the last 5 years versus like the 10 years before that, like the market cap speaks for itself. But the like what do you think is driving that internally, I guess, like and how I spoke to someone else that worked at Microsoft for a while, and they said that that was actually in that strategy around partnerships was in place prior to Satya Nadella even taking the CEO position, and like that was already something that Microsoft was trending towards. So like, is that something that's like in the DNA there, or is that something that really was like coming from the like the office of the CEO, or like what would you posit was like how that shift was able to happen, I guess?
I think you pinpointed it as cultural. And a lot of that came with the new CEO when Satya Nadella stepped in. And it's not been overnight. It's taken years, almost a decade to get there. But because partnerships is people driven, I think first, people at Microsoft needed to internalize that way of operating. So if you've noticed the sellers, the way we sell has changed, the way we partner has changed. Yeah, it may have been in the DNA, it may have been in the roadmap for a while, but as you said, you need to change the DNA, you need to change the culture and the way people think in order to actually make that strategy a success. Satya Nadella wrote a book called Hit Refresh, and I think that's essentially what he did. When I joined Microsoft, people were asking us, why should I partner with you? They thought it was the old era. And a lot of that has transformed. It's been people, it's been cultural, it's all the training that we go through, the new leadership that's joined. It's a whole different place. And so maybe that's what allowed the strategy to turn into reality.
We talked about having a dedicated person to work on Microsoft. If you were to describe the perfect person for a role like that, what are some of the skills, characteristics, attributes that someone should be looking for if they're going to hire someone and task them with building out a partnership with Microsoft?
I think it has to be someone who's a true partnerships person. And what I mean by that is a person who can work with different teams and get work done through others internally. It's also got to be someone who's extremely organized because there are deadlines and things to do tactically every month or so, and they need to be on top of it. So ideally, this person is great at getting the marketing team to create content for them, for sellers to show up when they need to show up and share deals, but also someone who can take care of the operational stuff and enter deals when they need to be entered, you know, take advantage of all the benefits when they're available. And the third piece is someone who's really creative, who can figure out where in that matrix we talked about does your company fit, and then start drilling down and finding the people at Microsoft, finding the better together stories that will allow them to rise above the rest.
I love that. Awesome. Well, Juhi, thank you so much for the time today and sharing some of this experience with us. And, you know, we're going to endeavor to continue to share more about Microsoft and the ecosystem, and very excited to continue to promote some of the great work that you're doing. So thanks for taking the time with everyone today. And what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to kind of talk about navigating the Microsoft ecosystem or have more questions?
You can ping me on PL in our Slack channel, or you could hit me up on LinkedIn. And I'm also available at hello@partner1.io.
Amazing.
And hope to chat with folks soon.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Juhi. I appreciate it.
Cheers. Thank you, Ty.